I'm an American walking in Russia at night in the city, and I was out late, got away from my family, got away from my friends, and now I get to go back to the hotel after 11 p.m. by myself and make my way. But there's a park, I can cut the corner. So I'm gonna walk through this little park by myself here and cut the corner and see how it goes. I assume it will be okay. But ask yourself, would you go through a park at night in your city? And I don't see anyone that appears to be homeless. I don't see anyone living in this park. So that's good. We've got, they call that a schlock bomb in Russian. I actually forget what it's called in English. The arm that stops the car from coming through. I feel good. But would I normally want to walk in a city at night by myself? No. Would I normally do it? No. I certainly would be concerned about doing it if I wasn't in Russia. Just think about that, guys. Russia is a place where, of all the places, I'm not concerned for my safety. Graffiti on a truck. I found some. And the mere fact that that is interesting should tell you something.
I see United States of America. We were told that is the biggest economic, strongest country in the world, the biggest country with the biggest military, with the biggest film studios, with Hollywood. I don't know what else. I mean, they brought us Chuck Norris, they brought us Rambo. We see UK. We were told about the Queen. They brought us David Beckham. They brought us Man United, but you can't walk alone in the streets. Germany, it's one of the powerhouse economical hub of Europe, where certain countries, it's like you're walking in Hillbrow. These countries that you saw from the West are the countries that are now actively involved with the war or with the war against Russia. So in Russia, where you are told that this is the most dangerous country, these guys, they kill people, they have AK-47s, they drink vodka, they make noise in the streets. Now somebody had to leave their comfort zone in the US and visit Russia to walk at night. I mean, in Devon, you can walk at night in some certain areas. In Joburg, you can walk at night in some certain areas. So the media is playing a very crucial role in making us scared or making us aware of things that are not necessarily the truth. So let me walk away from the stage and give you the platform as somebody who has experience on how cities should be managed, on how they can attract investors in such cities, or who understand the historical facts of some of the cities in the world. So let me welcome you, Diniko.
Thank you. It's really amazing how we are misled by the statement coming from the West. All in all, coming from the systems that they have set up, we can look at the economic principles that they want us to have the whole world. Liberalism, neoliberalism. You look at the political system, it's all about democracy. And then the social system, they confuse the one that we don't know what it is because it's not embedded in any natural culture. So it's a mess. That video was supposed to have included downtown Joburg because it's another small street where it's not easy for a visitor, even local people themselves, to walk around. It's very bad. So we can.
But hold on a bit. I want to ask you a question before you go further.
Yeah.
Small Street, the last time I was there, it was 1993-94. There was a shop that used to sell top class jeans. It was so clean. It had all the international brands there. So what I want to understand, how is it possible within the space of 30 years, a street that attracted tourism, international brands, how did we get to that, especially in small street? I mean, I remember when I left Tembisa to go to Joburg with my sister, I always wanted to go to Carlton Center in Small Street. So
Yeah.
I want to understand, is this a political shift? And if it's a political shift, are we saying apartheid government was good and as far as maintenance of the cities are concerned? What are the steps of the collapse of especially Small Street? How did it collapse? As somebody who lives in that city,
I don't live in that city. I live in Soweto. Yeah, I don't count.
it's part of Johannesburg. It's part of Johannesburg metropolitan. You part of Joburg,
Yeah.
and you
So
grow up going in and out. And you grow up going in and out in that area, and all of a sudden you're no longer comfortable. You're distancing yourself from Johannesburg. At what point did you get there in terms of the collapse?
Yeah. First of all, when you look at downtown Joburg, because it's linked to Hillbrow, South Africans accuse foreigners. They will tell you that Joburg, downtown Joburg, it's occupied by foreigners. They are dirty. They can't do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is wrong. And as a result, the elites, they ran away. They are no longer there in downtown Joburg. They migrated to places like Sandton, to suburbs that are having better malls, because they don't want to associate themselves with the dirty people based on what they are saying. But all in all, where it emanates is the failure of governance. When governance fails to deal with its own people, we will have such results. We can give an example about the governance approach for Russia compared to the Western countries, be it United States of America, Britain, and other Western countries, including South Africa, where people will tell you that we are free, it's a democratic country, it's decentralized, you are able to make strategic decisions. But what type of strategic decisions that end up making you live in a dirty place? And we are accusing Russia for centralized authoritarian governance. But is it
works
really
for them?
No, actually it's not. We can really unpack that, because if you have a government or governance that benefits everybody, it's good, because we cannot have governance that benefits a specific individual, which are the elites. And then when they find that things are not working because they can't save everybody, let's look at their economic behavior. They serve themselves, and then you find that the population is growing, and then we have run short of jobs, and then obviously the system is going to break down. And when people are hungry, they will misbehave because they are hungry. So you will be forced to leave downtown Joburg and go and live in Sandton. As poor people will follow them that side in Sandton, and then they will run out again. And it demonstrated that the Western system, it's a fault that people need to relook at, because the law enforcement, for example, they will tell you that countries like China and Russia, they are so strict and punitive. It's really, really not true, because these are the law enforcement that are able to benefit the local people. Look at how clean their cities are. Yes, they do have dirty places there and there, but it's not that much. It's because they are able to control people who misbehave. In Joburg, even the place that I'm staying in, people go and dump dirty stuff there. Nobody's going to touch them because we don't have government. The governance it's gone already. It doesn't exist anywhere. So we cannot accuse Nigerians for downtown Joburg being dirty. It's because we lack governance principles. And then we look at the public behavior. You find kids standing next to one another doing funny things, and then no parent can even ask them, what type of a culture are you having that it's so embarrassing that you stand before adults and do funny things? You can't get that in countries with cultural principles. I say to people that every time you want to fix the country, you don't look at economic means, you don't look at political means. Go back to your culture, because the culture that we have, that we say that these are culture with good principles, they were based on spirituality. Spirituality is to learn life according to the experience. For example, when we say that respect your parents, we say respect your parents because we know that they have wisdom, they have gained knowledge through life. So when you get advice from them, then it's going to be strategic because it's going to help you to have a sustainable life. But the type of life that we have today, it's something else. I saw an article where America, I learned that it's funding other countries when it comes to the issue of gay people, lesbian, and then also prostitutes. Actually, it's a strategy to increase the number of useless people in the country. Maybe I will be arrested for saying the useless people. We can't be funding such program. When you do that, you are saying that let's increase the number of people who are not going to benefit the country because they are not who we're supposed to be. Yeah.
It's very interesting that when you mentioned that, you sounded very much more like when you spoke of the culture meeting the economic principles. That's how Putin has always been saying. That's what his political party in Russia has always been saying. And that's the program that was launched yesterday in the United States of America, where Trump is going against all the transgenders in the military because he believes that will weaken the country in years to come, and of which the Democratic Party believe that that's how it should be, you know. So, but my confusion with these countries, you have a place like Mississippi, you have a place like Detroit. Detroit has not had proper running water since 2014. There's a place called Flint in Detroit. They have not had water, but they are able to come to Zambia and tell Zambia that if you allow gays and lesbians, we will give you 15 million US dollars. They go and threaten Uganda. They go and threaten all this. And this is the money that is taxpayers' money that is supposed to go and cause commotion in other countries. And those countries that will tend to resist that will be looked at as I don't know. There's a certain way that they demonize such. Now, in Belgium, in Europe, it's the drug hub of Europe in Belgium. I'm not sure if that's where the EU Parliament sits in Belgium, but that's where it's an economic hub for drugs. Drugs keep those cities going. A former CIA agent said when they went to Afghanistan, they got to the poppy fields. They wanted to understand why are these people growing the poppy that will later produce heroin. So then he learned that the bosses in Langley in Washington and Pentagon have said that we need to channel the shipment of the heroin to China, to Russia, to Iran.
Mhm.
This discussion has been there for the past 30 years. So if we get their population to be dependent on the drug, it weakens the nation. So
Definitely.
most people might not understand today's topic, why we picked on this, because you go to Durban, you find the same thing. There's areas you cannot walk. You go to, and the population of the criminals, they start to mushroom and go to suburban areas and start to go into office parks and start to go into doing house robberies where they will jump in and rape or take a car. They're no longer shy to do that. So people think it's just a crime at the face value without understanding that this is a strategic thing by the elite to weaken nation through this, so they can devalue a country. I mean, we have not heard of Afghanistan being devalued in their currency or as a country simply because it grows poppy. No, it works for them. America, California has a drug problem. You find sleepwalkers. People are just walking, sleeping because of drugs. There's a drug that is there. It's called fentanyl. That is so bad. You go, but they will take so much money and give it to Israel.
Yeah.
Whereas they have a drug problem. So now you need to understand that they will weaken their own nation so that when they take wrong, funny, messed up decisions to mess up the future of their own population, there's nobody to challenge. And remember,
Definitely.
all the kids that are born in the drug infested areas and the parents were drug addicts, you pass it on.
Yeah.
So Hitler said, if you want to destroy a nation, focus on one generation. So that is why you see all the drug issues in our cities. It's rising. And some politicians do benefit from this kind of drugs. I mean, we see the police commissioner talking about the drugs, talking about this. So if there's a political will, if there's a law enforcement will from the politicians, from the society, from civil society, they just pronounce that, oh no, stop drugs, stop drugs. But some of those people who say stop drugs are financed by drugs. So where are we going? In your own assessment, in your own opinion, since you look at all these cities that you're comparing to, since you look all the mess that has already been created, is there a way for Johannesburg? Is there a way for LA? Is there a way for London? Because these are the streets that you see before your eyes, where you are told that these are Western civilized countries. Maybe civilization, it means where anything goes. It means hell. It means where anything can be done. And
Yeah.
when you are told that demonize Russia, you walk in there, you walk at night with your cell
Yeah.
phone. You can walk with your cell phone during the day in Johannesburg and make selfies. You can't. And when you do that, the cops themselves, they'll tell you that, what were you doing there? Instead of doing something about it. Hence, I'm mentioning the political will. Question is there a political will in fixing these problems before our eyes?
We need to just go back to what they say about Russia and get clarity. So we don't have constitution in Russia. We do. Don't we have elected officials? We do. And then when it comes to legal institutions, they exist. So when you come and say that Russia, it's a totalitarianism state, we really don't understand. Can we go to Uganda and check how long did we have the president being running the country, but he is supported by the Westerners. Why? Because they want to weaken those African people. They need to be weak in such a way that they cannot challenge
Yes.
the Western systems. And then we come to
Yes.
South African democratic principles. Yes, we are a democracy where we vote every time. Is this democracy working for specifically Black people? Because it sustains the governance of a white minority who are owning the economy. So when you vote for the same system that it's not helping you, so what's the benefit from that context? So people need to open their eyes through these videos because this is the reality. We do have slums in America, we have slums in Britain, we have slums in France, and then people are taking drugs like nobody's business. You can see zombies walking around the streets. So their system, it's not working. So when it's not working, copy those that are working. And those are working, they are working from the context of culture. And culture is natural. It's the knowledge that we learn from our own ancestors because they have verified them that when you touch the fire, you're going to burn. There's no way you're not going to burn. So you need to stop that type of behavior. So it's obvious and straightforward that whatever the Westerners have said from the political, economic, social system, for them, it's not working even for themselves. It's working to destroy the society, to benefit the elites. When they are done with us, they go and create new cities and run to those cities and then make sure that they manage the cities in such a way that you won't be able to get access to such cities. Look at the cost of a room in Sandton. I can't afford it. Why? Because they don't want people like us. They want those who have money. So when you run around the street of Sandton, you must be somebody who is able to afford. You can't just go to Sandton and think that you can manage to buy coffee from their cafes. They are very expensive in such a way that they don't want in brackets, the useless people. So people need to open their eyes and follow what is correct, because what we have been told all along, they need to unlearn it because it was just bullshit and there's nothing good about the Western perspective.
But my this is what baffles me. You give Ukraine $1 trillion. You give Israel 5 or 6 to 10 billion every year to kill Palestinians. France has so much money that has put in Israel, that is put in NATO. They are one of the top leading countries with arms in the world. Then you have Britain that has colonized the whole entire world, that has put so much money in killing so many people, in wanting to control the biggest portion, the most fertile land, the most natural, the most countries that have natural resources. They wanted to control all of that. They have budget for war, but they don't have budget to solve their problems. Now, are ordinary people aware that politicians, there's no single politician under a banner of democracy that will solve their problems? And I'm asking this question and I'm putting it out there because I can see that we have the similar problem in South Africa, where we still hope that democracy, voting system will liberate our minds, will liberate our economic system. You mentioned culture. The culture is not stressed upon. They'll give you one day to celebrate culture. Anything else is things that don't necessarily work for us. And we make things that are supposed to work against us sexy. I mean, like eating fish and chips with cooking oil that you can put on a truck. The truck can move with that cooking oil that they use. And you can use that as an engine oil. We eat that and we feel sexy. We eat all the shit that they give us, and we leave the good food in the rural areas. But in saying that, I want to make note of something that in 1993, Henry Kissinger said. They were in New York, in Manhattan. They were having a seminar where he was one of the speakers. So he didn't realize that during the break, his mic was still on. And he said, if these people knew what we are about to do to all the cities in the world, each of them will move back to their countryside. This was 1993. And he was now warning to say it's going to get worse. So, mentioning all those countries with big budget for war, big budget to kill Iranians, big budget to kill Palestinians, big budget to make sure South Africans remain poor. The education system is fucked up. They're busy jumping up and down. They keep monies in the couches, in the mattresses. They cover up for all those crimes. We know they're looting. So are people aware that politicians, they make choices in what they want to do, not necessarily what concerns citizens? Hence, they want consumers, not citizens. Hence, they feed us shit. They give us poison water. They give us the pollution. So are people aware of what you are saying? That a culture is needed in order to direct the future of the country. Because Putin always talk about culture. Putin always, he hates parent A and parent B. He says there will be a mother and the father. There is a girl, there is a boy. There is a man, there is a woman. In the West, if you say, oh, sorry, sir, then you can be fired at work for calling me a man. I mean, the LGBTQRS2XYZ approached the courts to say, Aretha Franklin's song, You Are a Natural Woman, that song is violating their rights, or it makes them uncomfortable. Are people aware of the system that is not working for them?
Yeah, you gave answers already. I'm laughing because the manner in which we think, once we are told that we need to go and vote, we get so excited because there will be placards around the streets, and then we start saying that let's not vote for the ANC anymore. Let's vote for another party to challenge the ANC. But if you are working within the same system, will it allow us to have society value with national unity? Will we get that? Will we get cultural pride of dirty places like downtown Joburg? Are we going to have urban spaces that are clean through this democracy? Because that's what we need. When you say that you are free, you must have that. You mustn't be living in dirty places. And then civil liberties, are they balanced with collective responsibilities, or everybody's shooting to their own direction? We don't have society that are close with one another. They are willing to solve their local problems and rebuild their locality, and so that we have a better nation. Do we have cultural alignment and shared values that helps us to not to have fragmentation? Because when you look at what's happening in the West, specifically in this video, you can tell that people don't care about one another. Everybody's a zombie going to its own direction. So the Western perspective that we took and then swallowed without digesting, it's allowing the division of the society, so that there is that polarization that continues growing, so that the society mustn't understand one another, people mustn't understand one another, so that the elite will have opportunity to manipulate us, because they are really manipulating us. I gave an example about the funding that are coming from the West, so that they destroy other societies.
Okay. It looks like it's not something that we will be able to solve, but for me, I am very concerned because all these things is happening before my eyes. I mean, I went to Johannesburg, I went to Small Street. I mean, there were a lot of businesses that were international brands that were there, and all of a sudden it's no longer there, and we see it collapsing. I mean, we know people who bought there who are sitting in government. And when you talk about this thing, they said, "Hey, what can you do, chief?
Yeah.
You focus on what is before you, and what is before you, except for enriching themselves in a space of 4 years." So basically, we are saying there's no political will in solving these problems. But these are some of the updates. These are some of the conversations that, in building our communities, we need to talk about these things so that the children will start to understand. Because the kids that will grow up now, when they see things like this and they see us talking in the screens, they'll be like, how come these guys are not saying anything about these things? Are they part of the problem? Meanwhile, yes, we are part of the problem because we keep voting without understanding that there's no amount of votes that will liberate people generally, not necessarily black people, people generally. This video, it shows you US, Russia, UK, what's the other country? France.
Yeah.
It's
Germany.
all in a mess. It's all in a mess. So I like us to now zoom into one of the countries that they also demonized, since Russia, China, Iran are those countries that they hate. They call it the axis of evil. So I want us to prepare, if we can prepare the clip on Iran. We want to see, because even in Iran, they are not done. They want to make Iran look
Yeah.
like this, because they want to weaken the nations. So people must understand that all these countries with high number of drugs, it's deliberately done so that the population can be weakened. The population cannot necessarily have a revolution if they are all high on drugs. All that they look forward to is the next fix, and that's it, they're done. So the decision makings of each of those countries, it won't necessarily affect them. And some of these
Yeah.
politicians in these ruling parties are drug addicts themselves. Hence, you see the kind of leadership we have today. It's because these guys, they sleep with one another, they sleep with each other's wives or each other's girlfriends, women, men, and there's no actual cultural basis of how our countries are supposed to look like, because it's about self-saving arguments that these guys will have. No, I take care of me and my family. If you look at them, not a single kid who goes into public school of these people, they will march against Africans people, against AfriForum, wanting to force their children to go into white people's schools, whereas the same schools that they're serving in our communities, their kids won't be able to go there because the level of education is fucked. They can't go to public clinics, the same clinics. Have you ever heard that Putin went to Cuba for health? You
No,
will never
it's
hear
just
that. You know,
yeah.
you'll never hear. But our comrades, they go to Cuba, they go to all these other. Look, sometimes it's unfair for me to compare South Africa to these other countries because the colonizers never left. But look at Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
Mugabe died in Singapore. He should have created a good healthcare system in his country that he could trust himself, but he ended up not trusting that. So, in all of that, I want us to move into a very interesting story, our last final story, on how Iran was infiltrated. Because that infiltration will never stop. It comes through Coca-Cola. You can say no when you are an anti-West, but in your fridge you've got Coca-Cola. So the colonizer is in your house. You eat McDonald's. The colonizer is in your house. You say, no, I'm anti. The clothes that you wear, it's your LV. It's the brands that come from the West. So we need to look at how desperate the West and Israel are in wanting to break Iran apart, of which their dream is to make Iran look like one of these cities so that they can have a full control of the cities. So Sbu, you can play the second video for us that will now get into the crux of the topic of our main story of the day. So
these are the final recorded images of Iran's late president, Ebrahim Raisi. He's giving an interview to a woman fully covered in a hijab and abaya. At the time, neither he nor anyone else suspected a thing. Everyone assumed she was a devout Muslim. But the real shock would come much later. She was a Jew who had infiltrated the inner circle of Iran's most powerful men to uncover their secrets. Her name would soon be featured in global headlines. Catherine Perez Shakhtam. She didn't just interview Raisi, she sat face-to-face with Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. What she discovered behind closed doors left her horrified. This woman, an Israeli by origin, may go down in history as the only woman to have deceived Iran's ruling elite so completely. But who is she really? A Mossad spy? An Israeli journalist? Or simply a woman lost between ideologies, identity, and belief? The answer is just as shocking as her story. February 2017. Tehran, late afternoon. Catherine Perez Shakhtam was waiting at her hotel. A black car with no markings arrived to pick her up. Tinted windows. In the back seat, a place between two women from the IRGC. No words, just a nod. Time to go. She was dressed according to all the rules, a black abaya and hijab. Only part of her face is visible. In this appearance, she inspired complete trust. Everyone believed she was a devout Muslim, obedient, loyal, one of them. The car turned into a quiet courtyard shaded by trees. She was escorted inside. A simple reception room, a carpet, cushions, a glass of tea, saffron sugar crystals. On the walls, portraits of Khomeini and Khamenei. No gold, no fanfare, no visible armed guards. Just silence, the kind that comes before something monumental. Then he appeared. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, supreme leader of Iran, a man who doesn't meet women, especially not foreigners, and especially not women like her. He entered slowly. She was told to sit on the floor. He remained in his chair. He spoke calmly through a translator. She listened without interrupting. Everything felt surreal, as if she were watching a scene from outside her own body. He spoke to her as if she were an ally, someone he could trust more than others. He had no idea who she really was. She was Jewish, born in France, Israeli in spirit, even if she didn't fully realize it at the time. And yet he, the highest authority in the Islamic Republic, spoke to her freely, perhaps too freely. But how did she even get there? Why was a woman, a foreigner, a Jew, allowed into the inner sanctum of Iran's most powerful man? And most importantly, what did he say to her that day that she could never forget? To understand how Catherine ended up in that room, you have to go back to the very beginning of her story. Catherine Perez Shakhtam was born in Paris into a secular Jewish family. She grew up in France, but her roots were deeply tied to the tragedies of the 20th century. Her maternal grandfather had fought the Nazis during the occupation. Her paternal grandfather was a Holocaust survivor. The family carried the memory of fear, but also defiance and resilience. Still, despite this heritage, religion played no role in Catherine's childhood. Her father's side of the family carried a particularly grim history. Catherine's father, Isidro Perez, was the son of secular Jews from Spain. In the 1930s, her grandfather, Eli Perez, became a committed communist and thus landed in the crosshairs of Franco's fascist regime. The family decided to flee to British Mandate Palestine, making their way through North Africa. However, their journey was interrupted in Tunisia, which was then a French protectorate. After the fall of France, Tunisia came under the control of the Nazi-aligned Vichy government. The Perez family was arrested as Jews and interned in a Nazi concentration camp. There were no gas chambers, but the inmates were left to die of disease and starvation. One of the Perez sons died of hunger. Eli Perez was a doctor. He treated a guard who had contracted typhoid, and in return, that same guard helped the Perez family escape before they too perished. After the war, the family stayed in Tunisia. When Isidro turned 18, he moved to Paris to study. Catherine would later recall in an interview with Aish.com, "My father literally inherited the trauma of his parents. They never recovered from what they suffered. The whole family was fractured on a cellular level because of what they had gone through. My father spent his entire life denying his identity. He hated being a Jew. He did everything he could to change his accent and to become as French as he could. For him, Judaism was literally a plague." While Catherine's mother was fairly comfortable with her secular Jewish identity, her father was not only secular, he was deeply anti-Semitic in the sense that he despised himself and everything connected to Judaism and Israel. The story on her mother's side followed a different path. Her ancestors had lived for generations as Jews in southern France. Her maternal grandfather, Jean-Baptiste Lévy, recognized in the 1930s the growing threat of anti-Semitism. He had his entire family convert to Christianity and changed the family name from Lévy to Laval. Although the Nazis didn't recognize such conversions, living under the Vichy regime in southern France allowed the family to survive. Jean-Baptiste joined the French resistance. He was captured twice and managed to escape both times, returning to fight again. After the war, he was awarded France's highest military honor. The Lavals resumed their Jewish identity after the war, but it was a tenuous identity, disconnected from tradition and practice, like a cut flower with no roots. When Catherine was 11 years old, her mother died. She was left with her father, a man who had long rejected his own people. "I was raised very, very secular," she would later say. "It wasn't that I was cut out of the Jewish community, but I had no sense of religious belonging. I never grew up with a sense of Jewish identity." School, books, music, Paris, everything that filled her youth had nothing to do with Judaism, synagogues, or Shabbat. Her Jewishness was more like background noise, unspoken, barely visible. She accepted it, but it wasn't part of how she saw herself. She was just a smart, curious girl from a good family. But true detachment came later, after she moved to London. Catherine was accepted to the London School of Economics. There,
Yeah. In our government, we have classified information: secret, confidential, secret, and top secret. And you can see the leadership of today, they don't understand that. When for the past 4 years, when we have the State of Nation address, before it's pronounced, we already have the document, it's circulated, that demonstrated that lack of discipline within our leadership. They don't understand the necessity of waiting for government to pronounce stories, because the manner in which we behave, we don't understand why we need that. You can't tell every secret to everyone, because until that secret turn into a strategic project, it will then that can come out. Same applies with parents. They discuss things in the bedroom, and then when the matter now is voted, it will then that they will tell their children that, and now we need to buy a car, and then because we decided that the car that we have, we need to give it to the firstborn. So imagine if the story was coming through the mother alone, the father is not sitting there. It gets distorted. So people need to behave. So the strategy that we are seeing happening, taking place in Iran, it's not a new thing. You remember the story of Delilah in the Bible, the Philistine lady who was used by the Philistine against the Jewish. So this type of behavior, people need to be aware of. People you meet around the street, they ask you where they want to go. You need to be sensitive. The life is not easy, not only for local people, but for government in general. There are lots of things that we were not supposed to be knowing, but we know them. And they put the government in awkward situation. So I'm sending it back to you so that you narrate exactly the story behind this lady, because she is so brave in such a way. I can't take even one step of what she has done.
So here, I've been zooming into Iranian national intelligence. and look at how their proxies were taken out. Hamas leadership. I'm going to talk about Ismail Haniyeh, who was taken out, guess where? In Tehran. I'm going to talk about the Raisi. His helicopter was sabotaged by Israel. He died. I'm going to talk about Narsala. He was killed. I'm going to talk about Qasim Suleiman. I'm going to talk about now just under 20 of top leaders of Iranian National Guard, Revolutionary National Guard, were taken out. You know very well as a country that you are a public enemy. You have an enemy, a very dangerous enemy that is waiting for an opportunity. And this enemy was once your friend. Remember, Israel supported Iran fighting against Iraq. While Iraq was supported by the CIA, later on, Israel supported Iraq against Iran. All of those efforts were put forward to weaken the state of affairs in Iran. So since the revolution 1979 till today, you really want to tell me that after it was clear that the Americans, mostly Israel, want to take you down. You're so clumsy that Mossad will use Indians, will use these people from Azerbaijan. They will use all these other people to infiltrate your country, to even have a base while things are hotting up. For the head of intelligence, what happened to the vetting? For this woman to be able to go and sit with Ayatollah one-on-one, you can see in the clip, she sat with Raisi one-on-one. So what happened to vetting people? And I can tell you that within the Iranian intelligence, don't be surprised that some of the senior officers work with Mossad. You know, and why are these countries, Russia and Iran? I see, yes, FSB works. Between 2023 and 2025, FSB has recorded a number of 18,000 spies that they've arrested. But we have seen activities that happened inside Russia where many people died because of the weakness of the intelligence. Whenever, no matter how strong you can be, but you get that one infiltration. We get it at Charlie Hebdo in France. They were hit. In Israel, they were hit. In all these countries, they were hit. They have to be. Are these weaknesses allowed? Is a certain agenda from the intelligence? I mean, let's look at October 7th, where Hamas entered in the military style in Israel, where they abducted over 200-300 people. Meanwhile, the senior commanders of military were told on that day specifically to take a day off. Now you start, okay, you put that aside. You, Iran, you responded to America for bombing your 3 sites. Before you do that, you make a call to America, say, by the way, brah, I'm coming to hit. Tell your people to leave. So why are you hitting?
Yeah.
Why are you hitting? Now, it makes me think that America as well said to Iran, you know what? Netanyahu talks too much. We will come there. Just make sure you clean up the mess. We will hit then, because before 24 hours was done, Trump went on X and congratulated Iran for their resilience and congratulate Israel for their bravery. And the war was over. But my central point is the weaknesses of the intelligence in countries in general. South Africa, you had a farm where Libyans are training soldiers. And apparently they are still operating. In South Africa, you have Somalians who carry AK-47s, LMGs in the streets of Soweto. What we were told about intelligence and what we see, the actual intelligence, we all now going to believe that the super spies were KGB, CIA, and Mossad, and British and French intelligence, even though they get exposed, but they get what they want. My thing is, these intelligence agencies, Mossad ran an office in OR Tambo, Johannesburg, without anybody knowing, until they were caught. Mossad had operations in Houghton, the house. They were selling drugs to fund their operations. They are still in this country. They are not yet gone. They get what they want. So if you know your country is at war, what are the systems to tighten the grip? To show some of the intelligence failure in the home where the head of state lives. Thieves are breaking in. There's cops, there's surveillance cameras, there's electric fence, there's beams, but they were able to infiltrate. They go in this couch and took those dollars and go. So you start to question. Same thing with Raisi. He was flying. Now we were told that the helicopter was not at its best. But the other two helicopters were able to reach Iran. But his helicopter was not able to. It was even difficult to go and retrieve his body. So I see clumsiness in Iran. I do support them personally. When Qasem Soleimani was taken out, Mossad was actively involved in the surveillance, because that's one. Mossad killed the other general in Syria, where Iran had to respond with those couple of missiles. You said you were not impressed when they said mission accomplished. Meanwhile, no one died. But they knew what they were doing. We didn't understand at the time. And then they killed the president. Reason for that president to be killed, he was the one who made sure Hezbollah remained strong. He was going to negotiate the movement of arms to Hezbollah to be able to defend themselves, because he knew that today was going to come where Israel will want to continue and go toe-to-toe with Lebanon, or should I say Hezbollah. When he fell, who was next in the list? Assad was next in the list. Because when you look at the map, look at the arms will leave Iran to go to Syria. From Syria, they walk to Lebanon. Easy. Now that tap has been closed. Hence you see there's no much activities of Hezbollah. They still have the hardware, but it's not as much as they should in terms of pushing back to Israel. Because when Israel stopped that side, it started this side. You know, they know that when they hit this side, Iran won't be able to move things as easy as that. And our dear lovely Russia and Latakia army base, they are just keeping their hands to themselves to say, oh no, you did not ask. Now we have conflicted stories to say we did ask, we did not ask, we did ask. We're not sure what is actually happening. But the sole purpose of the removal of the leadership was to cut the supply of arms to Hamas and Hezbollah. So we can see that how these guys operated put their operation in place, placing there's a thing in the intelligence called Operation Honey Trap, where they bring a woman. It's called honey trap. They bring a woman, and a woman will infiltrate. I mean, we never thought that Khomeini will sit one-on-one with the Jew. How is he feeling right now to know that I found myself sitting one-on-one with a Jew girl who faked that she's a Muslim, who faked that she's a Shia Muslim, but she was sitting with him. But the message goes to all the business people, all the countries, all the head, to say, if you know you are at war, do not take chances, especially when you know you go against people like Israel and the Americans. They'll always make sure it happens. Their will be done at the end of the day. So this whole entire story, it exposed the weaknesses of these countries that are active at war. They opening the front door, waiting with the gun, meanwhile the back door is open. This is what really happened here in the story.
Yeah. I wanted to say something and then it went through me laughing because I laugh so much, especially when I see men being weak when it comes to women. But let me go back to what I wanted to say because I've remembered. It tells that the type of government that we have, it's not set up by people. You vote there, but somebody decide on the final decision on who should lead because they will be controlling that person. When you look at the cabinet that we have today, do you think the cabinet was selected by people we know? No. They take those that they know that they're going to use. So the strong ones, they don't want them because they know that they're going to not to be able to manipulate them. So already in there, that is the reason we know stories that's happening at behind the scene of the cabinet committee, and then the Fossad, even the meetings that was supposed to take place in secret. We already know what's going to be happening there and what will be the strategic decision. Why? Because the government we have, it's not the government that we are selecting through democratic means. Somebody runs the show. And you look at how the reason why I'm saying this, I'm not looking at the context of Iran alone because each and every country has such problems. The reason why I'm saying that is because when we can review on what's happening in South Africa, and then you did mention that in the airport, there was first Mossad there, and then they also have their own house in a center where they able to sell drugs. So they are busy manipulating the country. Not that the leadership doesn't know. They know. They are allowing it to happen because they don't have control over that. So these are the stories that are happening, and then people think that they have control over their country. They don't have. Certain countries are controlling our country. We are weak because of the type of system that we have.
So are you saying that there is a possibility that the people that Khomeini himself put in the position he trusts, they were used by others to expose him into such danger?
It's because they copied somehow the governments we have, they end up copying the Western system. Why would he allow such woman to come before him and interview him? He shouldn't be in the position of allowing that, because when you're working for as a government employee, most especially the top notch people, you're supposed to be assessed. And when they assess you, they need to know your history, your behavior, your bank account, who do you talk to, and today we have networks that we register our names and our secrets to Facebook, TikTok, and so our information gets collected there. And then even the types of phones that we have, for example, you use iPhone. iPhone is, you don't own the iPhone. Somebody operates it for you. They can have access to that information. They know the network, who you discuss with at what time, and so there's nothing secret about that. So until governments go back to the drawing board, those that are interested, those that the colonizer is not in their country, they will be able to manage to deal with such types of behavior. You said last time that the reason why Elon Musk is pushing that he comes and operate in South Africa is because he wants to have access of our information. And when we work against the Westerners, they switch off our system so that we won't be able to communicate with one another and organize ourselves and be able to fight back. So people need to open their eyes. We stop depending to Western system. We create our own, and we make sure that they are gathered off so that people don't have all the access that they need, because they use the very same information to manipulate us.
Thank you very much. Very interesting discussions on the governance and our cities and the weakness of the intelligence of these most trusted, the big countries that we put our hopes on them to defend against the colonial masters of the world, but we get disappointed. I think we need to roll over. We need to keep a track record on the cities. We need to expand that conversation. We need to shift in some topics where we'll talk about education, where we'll talk about culture, where we'll try and match our day-to-day lives with some of the topics and the stories that we are picking up. And with all that we have for today or for this evening, we say thank you very much for the viewers. Keep watching our show until we get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our